Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was the first emperor in One Piece. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by TheDemonKingNaruto and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Naruto. The rulers of the sea. Prologue. The beginning. History. The word that defines every event that has ever been recorded throughout life, every life-changing event, every natural disaster that has ever occurred. Any and all events that have birthed a new age of either life or death, peace or war. It has been recorded all in the endless book of history. It is that very book that defines all life, for in a way it shows the actions of which have resulted in so many things thanks to the very race of mankind itself. The results of their actions led to either a prosperous life for a whole millennium, which would be remembered for generations upon generations. Or it leads to nothing but war, that which has caused extinction of so many races, or battles and wars over mankind's greed, to which has led to wars that have bathed the ground in blood and bodies of those that have been slain. Of course, mankind has always for centuries, millenniums, eons even have tried to erase what they've done in the past, so it can never be looked upon in the future generations. They believe in thinking their actions were all good, when in reality every action is neither good or bad, for every action has a price. Unfortunately, humans didn't see that way and have stubbornly thought they could do things they were not gifted to do, which has caused even more death and destruction in their wake. Like the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Or in this case, the road is paved with the bones, flesh, tears and blood of all those that have died by those very intentions. The actions of man has caused an uncountable number of deaths that some can't distinguish them between man and demon. It's for this very reason another action in the book of history happened, that which was once again recorded in history, only this time. The very deities themselves had stopped to watch the scene of man's actions that in the future will shift the world into a chaotic era, that which makes all the past actions seem ever so small in comparison. This event shook the very planet to its core and thus made the very deities watching curse mankind's stupidity, yet they couldn't do anything. That didn't mean others couldn't. How this had all began was when a group of humans had found a tree, but not just any ordinary tree, but the tree of knowledge, that which has been a testament of time itself and has been the deity's very own child, for have survived for so long and seen so many things during its time. It was after this event did the world start shifting, and in the next millennium did events start to unravel. For kingdoms were built, people's lives were flourishing in peace, because that is when the kingdom of Alubarna flourished, and with its people. Its economy boomed, it becoming a kingdom that would be known for quite some time and had forever placed its mark in history. That though was only the beginning, for afterwards did the ugly dark face of mankind reared its head and thus elicited battles and wars against kingdoms. Countless wars had been fought for centuries, even millenniums have passed, a war still showed. The greed of mankind resulted in these wars, which blood of innocents have been spilt. It was only when the new century, or as people call it, the void century, in which was a time and era of where the sins of man truly showed, and of the gods themselves for their own stupidity of leaving such things in the hands of humanity. For this era was nothing more than pure war, that's it, all it was and ever will be. For it was during this century did the greed of mankind become too unstable, which led to wars with so many races and kingdoms, it was nigh impossible to even comprehend the number of death tolls that followed. For example, during the Great War, which has been the most prominent and glaringly obvious event in the Void Century. This war was indeed an event that destroyed countless lives and an uncountable number of civilizations. That wasn't the only thing though, for after this war, during the end of the Void Century did an event that changed the world appear. It was when a group of 20 kings, which in reality was the 20 kingdoms, had gathered and allied themselves with each other, forming an alliance that would later on be known not only as the Ancient Alliance, but also as the World Government. It was this group that waged war and attacked a particular kingdom that's name has forever been lost to history. Some say this kingdom was a threat to the alliance and thus destroyed them all, leaving not a single one alive. Though thinking they had won, they were sorely mistaken. Even if it wasn't a true victory, this civilization saw their end coming and thus made certain objects before they were destroyed, thus they were scattered all over the known world. These objects were called Nagirifu poneglyphs, which held the knowledge and parts of the true history of their kingdom. It is believed these objects also held information pertaining to another source of the world government's ire. That being, the names and locations of the super weapons this kingdom designed and created were inscribed and embedded within these ancient tablets of history. No one truly knew of what these weapons were, but the newly formed world government at the time didn't want them known and thus banned all knowledge and researching of these poneglyphs, which resulted in the killing of scholars that specialized in the area of those very tablets. Of course, that wasn't all, for the world government went as far as to kill any and all people, whether they be innocent or not, that even had a link to the poneglyphs. People wondered why the world government was so adamant about keeping the research on these poneglyphs a secret. Some thought they didn't want another person to find out things that could disrupt their control over the lands. Some have also said they didn't want the truth found out for it could destroy the very world. There was countless theories to why the government was trying so hard to hide the true history of the ancient kingdom and its poneglyphs. But in truth there was only one true reason why the world government tried so hard to hide all of this, and that reason was they were scared. Always have been and always will. The power and knowledge of the ancient kingdom threatened them and made them publicly weak in comparison to their own. The technology they had beat their own hands down. None of them could beat them in anything, whether it was knowledge, technology or fighting they beat them. So their jealousy got to them, and thus they combined to take them all out wanting to erase them from existence. They did so as they believed with killing all of the populace in the kingdom. But they soon learned they missed something, or more specifically they missed two things, for you see it was believed the ancient kingdom was the people that designed and created these super weapons that were capable of annihilating whole islands themselves. It's only been recorded in history that only two weapons were found out about but never located, and their names forever placed in the book of history. These names both called Pluton and Poseidon. It was believed these two were the only weapons to have ever been recorded in history, but their locations never found. Though only the world government is rumored to only have the slightest idea but not so much to search for them. Many people believed the rest were never built and the blueprints were destroyed by the very people who made them, not wanting the government to have them. But it was a lie. There was more than just Pluton or Poseidon. It was only recognized before the end of the Void Century that when the world government searched the remains of this kingdom, did they find something that shook them to their very cores. It was an ancient tablet embedded within the wall of the throne room of this very kingdom. It was a tablet they couldn't break nor take, for it was stuck there, never able to move from its position. But what was scary about this tablet was that it not only defined the words of both Pluton and Poseidon, but also two more names. But these names, when they're just uttered, sent a chill up all of those that were present the day those names were read. For these names that would forever remain a secret were called Asinus and Tethys, the last two names of what the world government was able to find out, the last two names of the hidden super weapons that were completed before their invasion. It was also on that same fateful day did the world government know the true meaning of the word fear. For when those two names were just leaving the mouth of the leading general of the Alliance's army, did a monstrous tidal wave come crashing down on all of them, killing all but a few that were able to flee in their ships. This tidal wave, a natural phenomenon, was also the thing that wiped off the entire kingdom from the map, erasing its very existence from the face of the planet. But its mark was always and forever will be marked in the endless book of history. That was why after the end of the Void Century did the Alliance formally change and become the world government and forever became the world's political power, while also destroying what they have done in the past or of what they could do. It was after this chaotic era did the dark past of the Void Century was all but either hidden or destroyed, with the knowledge of some of it passed down by all 20 kingdoms. It was also during this time did the world government start become more and more territorial, with them training soldiers called Marines. But that wasn't all, for soon people that opposed to the world government went out to sea and became what was known as pirates. This is where our story starts and the beginning of a new era. A new age for pirates. Brand line the Red Force. Upon the illustrious deck of the legendary Red Force, pirate ship of the infamous red-haired pirates, as the midnight sky filled to the brim with twinkling stars, as the full moon's brilliant radiance shined down upon the sea, thus making it sparkle like liquid azure. The cooling sea salt breeze from the ocean and its slowly shifting waves gave way to a beautiful yet deadly sight. It was like a sleeping deity that if it should awaken the very ocean would swallow you up. Upon the very deck of this ship was a man that was at first not much to look at, but he was anything but ordinary, even if some of his clothing looked partially normal, with his white button shirt, with it only buttoned up halfway, exposing his muscular chest with it loose and untucked. He wore loose brown trousers that had floral designs on them. Around his waist was a crimson sash, as well on his feet were simple brown sandals. But that's where things end for civilized clothing, for attached to the man's crimson sash was a weapon of sorts shaped like a sword, it being called a saber, with its sheath following from the man's backside and poking out from his left. The handle's overall design was like any normal saber, but it was larger than any normal saber to begin with. Next up was the one thing that caught the most attention, and that was the black flowing cape with its high collar, which was draped over the man's shoulders, with the left side covering up where his left arm would be. The man's physical appearance though was slightly different than others, for his somewhat sharp sapphire eyes that looked like the eyes of a calm dragon, ready to strike out against those that are his enemies. His skin tone was tan, dark enough to say he just bathed in the sun. He had an unshaved short scruffy beard with a calm, almost serene expression on his face, yet his eyes betrayed the worry deep within them and which reeked in his soul. The most astonishing thing though that has gained this man's name is his straight, somewhat long blood red hair that just glinted in the moon's radiance. The fringes of his hair were pulled to both sides of his face, with the rest combed back as 3 jagged scars went over the man's left eye. This man stood at a good 5'8" with an overall muscular yet lithe build, showing he was great for both strength and speed, yet had a lazy laid-out posture. This man was none other than Shanks, or as the world knows him as red-haired Shanks, former apprentice of Gold D. Roger, and now captain of the infamous red-haired pirates, but also the second ruling Yonko, 4 emperors, of the New World. And right now the man was looking out at the sea. Now if people were to look at him, they'd think he was just gazing out at the beautiful mistress that is the ocean. But those that knew of the recent events pertaining to the whole world would know that Shanks was thinking. So much so that it was scary of how fast he was thinking on the matters at hand. The things that were happening were disturbing him greatly, and even worse was it involved a person he respected. Gazing down at the sea, did Shanks let out a sigh. First, Whitebeard declines his order to pull Ace back from looking for Teach, and now the man defeated Ace, thus granting him the position of Shichibukai, and now Ace has been put up for execution by the world government. It's obviously a declaration of war with Whitebeard, I told him, and he declined, and this is the result. I was afraid this would happen. Shanks let out a sigh before he quietly pulled out something from around his neck, it being a necklace of some sort. It being held together by a silver chain, with the centerpiece of this necklace being a silver pendant of sorts. It looked remarkably deadly, yet somehow it made a smile grace Shanks' face, not most of his cheerful grins, or his usual smiles, that looked like it could split his face. But just a normal smile, but which was filled with both love yet sadness. The silver pendant was designed with a crown of sorts on top, with it leading to both sides showing roaring dragons, their claws outward prepared to strike out, and their maws open to attack their enemies. At the bottom of this pendant was a skull and crossbones that seemed to hold the 2 dragons up. The sockets of the pendant were little small red glittering rubies. Though at the centerpiece of this pendant was a gem of sorts, it being a striking color of a violet shade. Streaks of red and blue could be seen within the gem, giving it all the more of a unique shine. Running his thumb over the gem, did Shanks speak. I never did want to do this but to save Ace, and if our information is correct, Luffy, from certain death, I will need both of your assistance. I know the promise I made to never summon you two, so you could rest, but this world needs you two once more. Even now the tides of fate are churning, and the upcoming war is coming. I can't do this alone. No matter how strong I am, I need your help. Shanks spoke, his eyes practically glued upon the gem and the pendant. Slowly turning it over, did Shanks' eyes read the words described within it, showing a hidden message within for his eyes only. Always remember, Shanks, we are always there. Just call upon us when you truly seek out help. When you're backed into a corner, remember we are here. Clenching the pendant, a lone tear fell from his eye. I know, and it would seem I have no other choice. I'm sorry, but it's time you two appeared once more. This world needs you. It needs you once more for the era that is to come. Like you both helped Captain Roger and his time, I need you as well. But that Shanks pulled the necklace off before placed it in a bottle of sorts with a rolled up piece of paper inside. Placing the necklace inside before plugging up the bottle, did Shanks hold the bottle outwards over the ship's railing. Closing his eyes in concentration, did Shanks speak. By the grace of the old ones and of thou ocean's shifting tides, let thy churning current spin and stir, let God's word ring out through the ocean and all of its inhabitants. Let thy old ones hear thou God's words and hear my plea. Awaken once more, rulers of the ocean. He spoke before his smile widened even further to see the necklace glow from his words, before it practically was inflamed with a blue fire of sorts. Seeing his work done, did Shanks throw the bottle far into the ocean, knowing with this action, countless deaths will be averted, and the deaths of both Ace and Luffy will also in result be averted as well. Especially with the two he has called for. He idly watched the bottle splash into the water before closing his eyes in finality before turning around. Heading to his quarters, did he speak. It's time for change. I got a battle to prepare for. With that, Shanks went back inside his ship, preparing to get to Whitebeard and help him against the Marines and save Ace and his protege Luffy. Too bad he'll be held back for a while. Good thing he sent the message. He never did see the bottle as it sunk into the water suddenly disappear in a blue flash of fire. New World, unknown location. Upon the moist sand of one island that existed upon the New World and its treacherous oceans was many things. Animals of all kinds inhabited the island, that which were small or as big as giants. Unique creatures never seen before, that is never seen before, or artifacts deep within this island would send even the most professional scholar into a state of hysteria. Upon these sands did a small blue flash appear before slowly did a bottle of some sort drift into from the ocean's wave. It after one last wave did it float upon onto the sandy shore, and right then it rolled before slightly touching the feet of someone nearby. It was unclear of this person's identity, but when the person picked up the bottle and peered into it, did the person just freeze for a second before a grim expression crossed the figure's face. I see, so it's come to this, has it? Very well, it was getting boring here anyway, he murmured before heading back into the jungle, bottle and letter in one hand with the necklace gripped tightly in the other. the figure's presence now making the very trees crack and shatter and ground beneath the figure's feet tremble with each step. The very wildlife sensing the person's intimidating aura just fled when they had the chance or too late to get away passed out. The air was thick with something that made all animals that were able to survive bow down in complete utter submission in whatever way they could. As the person walked through the jungle did he speak. So little Ace and little Luffy is in trouble are they? And that old bugger Whitebeard always the blind fool he is Shanks you truly have gotten yourself in a mess haven't you? He idly mused as the darkness of the jungle covered him as he walked deeper into the jungle. Yes, it's time to prepare. Soon enough a voice so cold yet demanding all the same echoed within the whole island. For war. Soon the Marines and the very world government will be shaken to their very cores by the appearance of two people. Two legends. Amazon Lily Queen's throne room. Within the very throne room of the ruling empress of Amazon Lily was 5 figures. 3 of them being the Gorgon Sanshimai, Gorgon sisters. The last 2 consisted of a small woman that looked to be of very old age, wielding a walking cane in one hand and a newspaper in another. This woman was called Elder Nyan, former empress of Amazon Lily and former ruler of the Kuja tribe. The last person was a teen of 5'7" height with tan skin. He had a slim yet muscular build that showed he had the body of a fighter. He wore simple clothing of a light blue buttoned-up vest and red shorts, added with his open-toed sandals, but upon his head was a simple yet famous straw hat with a red ribbon wrapped around the base of it. This teen had shaggy messy black hair that somewhat covered his eyes and a scar under his left eye. This person was Monkey D. Luffy, infamous captain of the Straw Hat Pirates and adopted brother of Portgas D. Ace. Standing between the throne was 2 very tall women, with the one of the left being Bo Sandersonia and on the right of the throne called Bo Marigold. But upon the throne was the eldest of the 3 sisters and empress of Amazon Lily and captain of the Kuja Pirates. She sat upon the throne with a troubled yet curious expression on her heart-shaped face, her pale milky white smooth skin just glowed in the light. Even she was sitting down you could tell of her tall 6'3" stature with her slim build that betrayed the hidden strength and speed she has. She had dark blue eyes and long raven black hair that looked to be of complete silk, her voluptuous bust left nothing to imagine with her revealing blouse, with also a loose sarong that exposed her long slender legs with the symbol of the Kuja on it. Draped over her shoulders and flowing down her back was a long white cape with a pair of epaulets, finishing it off was her red high heel pumps. This woman was none other than Kazoku Jate Bo Hankaku, Pirate Empress Bo Hancock, captain of the Kuja Pirates and first female Shichibukai. She being named the Hebahim, Snake Princess, and ruling power of Amazon Lily. Right now she was staring at Luffy with an almost shocked gaze, her face showed she was curious yet troubled, but her eyes betrayed her. She was told this was a man that not only caused an uproar in the Grand Line for angering the government, but also hitting a Tenryubito, celestial dragon, also known as the Sekai Kazoku, world noble. An entity that if she be injured in any way incurs the wrath of the entire world government. Honestly at first Hancock couldn't believe it, but after it was confirmed by Luffy himself, she had gone into an almost mental breakdown. Staring at Luffy did Hancock's eyes widen at such lengths it slightly scared her sisters. Why she wide-eyed? It was because as she stared at Luffy she saw behind him the cloaked form of him. The figure she was seeing was staring back at her with those eyes as his cloak billowed from the smoke and wind of battle. Blood stains and tears could be seen on his cloak as well as the dead bodies of world nobles around his feet. She couldn't help herself but let out a bitter chuckle that earned the attention of everyone in the chambers. Monkey D. Luffy, you are not the first to go against the Tenryubito, because before you were others, but only 2 have ever been recorded in history to have caused such chaos against them. I never thought I'd meet another person to do such a thing, and I don't know why, but you Straw Hat remind me so much of him. As he spoke solemnly, but when she said the word him, it made both Marigold and Sandersonia. They could hear the sadness yet loneliness in her voice, and they too mentally frowned, remembering that person. Luffy blinked dumbly, not really understanding, just tilted his head on confusement, which Hancock noted, making her speak once more. Let me explain, seeing as you are a person I can respect and your actions against the Tenryubito and hiding my sister's mark from the other women, I shall tell you of these 2 people and of our past. Thus Hancock went into explanation of her and her sister's past, the marks upon their backs, and of how they were slaves to the Tenryubito. But that's when a merman by the name of Fisher Tiger broke into Mariagewa and freed any and all slaves he could, while killing all that got in his way. At first I thought the man to be a monster, but what he did on that marked himself as the first person to ever go against the Tenryubito. We were some of those slaves that were freed on that very day, she said, which her sisters looked down, remembering part of that past they really didn't want to remember. Luffy hearing this frowned in confusion. I see, then that explains why that mark looks like Hatchin's, but they're a bit different. But I'm curious, who's this other person that opposed those bubbleheads? He said with a grin which Hancock found amusing yet surprising all the same. It was the same grin that man showed. Oh, him I'll tell you, for he was the one who saved my sisters from being pulled back into slavery during our escape that night. He was a man that saved us by killing off all the Tenryubito coming after us that night. He was the one that made sure we slaves were able to get out in time while defeating those that came after us, her voice solemn yet happy with her eyes glazed over with a faraway gaze. Luffy blinked at this, but when he heard this person had not only faced and killed the Tenryubito but also had taken on Marines to make sure the slaves were free, he just had to ask. Do you remember his name? Which Hancock looked down at the question. No, all I remember on that night when he saved us I asked him of his name, only to get the word Maelstrom by you. Luffy, you remind me so much of him, why is that? She said, gazing at Luffy while secretly wishing to herself for just one more meeting with that man. Just one more is all she wished. Grand Line impelled down. Deep within the maximum security prison of the world government was impelled down, the giant underground prison. The legendary prison that is said to have 6 levels for each criminal and for their deeds are thrown in that specific level for the crimes they have committed. But deep within at the very bottom of this behemoth prison in the 6th level was a person that was to be executed very soon. This person was none other than Portgas D. Ace, adoptive brother of one Monkey D. Luffy and son to Portgas D. Rouge and Gold D. Roger. Shackled by sea stone cuffs on both his wrists and ankles. He sat on the stone floor with an emotionless expression on his face. Within this cell was also Ace's former enemy called Jin that was shackled on his far left. He too, this giant fishman, had a somewhat monotone expression, though the merman's eyes were frightfully filled with concentration of some sort. Ace, this would not have happened if you and Luffy had just joined the Marines like I told you to all those years ago. Look where's it ended up at. Spoke a man from outside the cell, the man sitting Indian style in front of Ace, with a stern yet sad expression. This man wore the normal Marine officer uniform with a vice admiral mantle over his shoulders. The man had spiky short grey hair and a grey beard as well. He had a dark skin tone and a few wrinkles on his face. Around his left eye was a scar. The man had a broad chest and a good build overall and stood a good 6'0". This man was Monkey D. Garp, Vice Admiral of the World Government and hero of the Marines. He is also the grandfather of Monkey D. Luffy, father of the revolutionary Monkey D. Dragon, and adopted grandfather of Portgas D. Ace. And right now he was staring at his adopted grandson in something akin to sadness yet self-loathing of himself. Ace just looked at his grandfather before speaking. Gramps, I don't know if you're going senile in your old age, but you should know by now, with the blood of 2 global-scale criminals flowing through our veins, it would be impossible for us to have become Marines anyway. To which Garp frowned, knowing even if he didn't want to admit it. What Ace said was entirely true. No matter what ties Garp had in the Marines, they wouldn't take the sons of their most hated enemies in. If anything, they would kill them on the spot. Like now, for example. That doesn't mean you two should have become pirates, he uttered, to which Ace just grunted. The sound of the shackles on him rang throughout the silent prison level. Ace's facial expression now laced with amusement. Please Gramps, there was no stopping us. Luffy and I love the sea, we love sailing it, living a life of freedom, instead of being chained down by those stupid military dogs the world government has on their leash. We are living the dream him and Sabo dreamt to have, yet that was taken away when the very nobles you protect killed Sabo. He hissed out angrily, making Garp slightly flinch. A silence soon followed. The tense atmosphere was so thick it could have been cut with a butter knife. That is before Ace spoke. Gramps, kill me, he stated, which Garp didn't show a hint of surprise nor shock at the teen's words, yet on the inside, a part of himself was blaming him for not trying harder to get Ace and Luffy away from the piracy life. Shaking his head, Garp spoke. I'm sorry Ace, but even if I did kill you, that would not stop Whitebeard and his forces. If anything, that will just urge them on, he explained, making Ace smirk. DCH, I doubted who would want to protect me. Who would want to save me? The son of the most evil man known to roam this world. Who, Gramps, do you know would do everything to save me from this death I know I'll get? But to Ace's inner shock did Garp's one stern and firm expression to a more sad and regretful one. At Ace, I can answer with only this: the rulers of the sea shall only rise up once more when they are thou called upon. When their family is threatened will the 2 rulers of the ocean appear once more. This, Ace, was the words of your own father. Gold D. Roger spoke to me before his own execution. His words filled to the brim with remorse and sadness of such a level, it surprised the wide-eyed Ace. But what the two didn't see was Jin's wide disbelieving eyes or the slight trembling of his arms. He couldn't believe it. The words Garp just spoken were not only known to him and his older deceased brother Tiger, but to all of the known aquatic race. It was these very words that have had their king Neptune himself keep watch out for any disrupting tides in the ocean. These words were only known by Gold D. Roger and one other person, and that is even unknown to himself or Tiger. He only knew that these other 2 people were both known by Neptune and Queen Atohim. They was rumored to have cared for and respected greatly, to the point these 2 people was part of their family. So much so that it was rumored one of these people was listed into a contract by Neptune of some kind of arranged proposal of some sorts. It was rumored this person had been seen a few times in the Merman Island and in the presence of Neptune, Atoham and lastly their children, mostly though was the little young Shirahashi. It couldn't be. That saying is said to relate to the true rulers of the sea. Does this mean something? Why does it feel like such a omen that makes my skin crawl? What is this? He had no idea how right he was, for this omen would soon become real. 1 week later, Marineford. What would be the word that could describe Marineford right now? The headquarters of the Marines. A place of tranquility. A land of stone, firm trained soldiers that protect the peace. A town built on stone that would be filled with both Marines and citizens and curious children running through the streets. Wrong. It was pure chaos. The execution of Portgas d'Ace had indeed incited the wrath of Whitebeard and his allies, which started the war between Whitebeard and the Marines. Sengoku of course took every precaution into account, thus he gathered up all 3 admirals and called for a summons of all Shichibukai in the known world. Also he called forth the Marines stationed all around the world come forth to be ready for this war. And what a war it was. Whitebeard came like expected, and with his massive fleet of pirates and allies, along with his own signature ship the Moby Dick. The Yonko and legendary pirate came, and with a vengeance. He was an angered father that had his son taken from him and for his own foolishness let this happen. But no longer, as his forces charged into the battle, an even more shocking development did a ship coming falling from the sky, carrying the freed prisoners from impel down. With them was a few people that gained the most attention. One of them being a revolutionary called Emporio Ivankov, and other 2 being the former Shichibukai, Jin Ben Crocodile. But also the most shocking person was Monkey D. Luffy himself coming down with his ship filled to the brim with escaped criminals. It was also during that time did Luffy protect Whitebeard from Crocodile trying to attack the man, seeing as this old man was the one his father Ace respected. After which though Luffy challenged Whitebeard on who was getting Ace back and he would be the next pirate king. Of course the man was angry, the kid, but soon which grinned before accepting the challenge, which resulted in Luffy jumping into the fray, his allies following in behind him. That was at the same time Sengoku has announced to the whole world of Luffy and Ace's heritage and of who their fathers truly were. This which shocked almost everyone in the war, with only a select few already knowing of this. After this though enacted the battle for Ace's freedom and against the Marines. It was basically a disaster, both sides were losing. Pirates and Marines alike fell to their death, yet it raged on the anger and wrath of both sides, growing by heaps and bounds to save their fellow Nakama, while another to keep the justice of which they serve. Though it was glaringly obvious the Whitebeard pirates, even if they were putting up a good fight, were losing, for with the combined might of the 3 admirals, of which were Borsalino, or better known as Admiral Kizaru, the next being Kuzan, which his alias is Admiral Aokiji, and the last one is known by Sakazuki, but like the last 2 his name in the Marines is Admiral Akainu. Plus with the gathered Shichibukai consisting of Dracula, Hawkeye's Mihik, Don Quixote Doflamingo, B. Sora Mikuma, Bartholomew Kuma, Jack Moria, Jekko Mariah, and the last of which was the reluctant Bo Hancock, who was, instead of fighting against the pirates, was just protecting Luffy when he was nearly killed. She didn't want someone that acted like that man killed. Though that wasn't the only fighting force, for when the war was stretching further on did a man called Sentamaru appear with an army of 20 pacifistas. These man-made cyborgs were already doing quick work of the pirates, though some were destroyed by Hancock herself for targeting Luffy. As the war raged on though, no one never saw the 2 cloaked figures watching from above the very top of Marineford's fortress. Their cloaks billowed into chaotic winds as the screams of the fallen sounded the area and clashes of battle rang through the land. No one could see them nor sense them, but the very area around seemed to shift as the clouds themselves slowly start to swirl around them while darkening. It was like an incoming storm, and it was about to hit the war hard. The 2 figures watched as Luffy punched Garp off the man-made bridge before getting to Ace. While also watching Whitebeard fighting off the Marines that were trying to stop Luffy. One of the figures turned their head to the other and spoke in a melodic voice that was like hearing the sweet melody of a goddess singing to her child. Look at them, little Luffy-kun and Ace-kun have grown up so much, and Hancock-chan as well, what a stunning beauty she's become, was the now identified woman's voice. The person next to her just tilted his head a bit before giving a slight nod. True, the kids have grown up so much since the last time I saw them, Garp's training must have done this some good. And Hancock-chan has indeed grown into a beautiful woman, spoke the other with a voice that both baritone yet had such an intense firmness that it would have most likely sent the most veteran Marines in a coma. The woman gave a nod before looking back at the battle happening below them, seeing the pacifistas almost destroyed with 5 of them attacking the pirates, with each Shichibukai attacking the commanders of each division of Whitebeard's crew. Also seeing the leftover Marines attacking the fleeing Ace and Luffy. We were called to help them, let's get to it, spoke the man, which the woman just gave a nod to before stepping to the edge of the building. As the 2 started to lean forward did the woman speak. Yes, let's the kids need us now, and with not a sound did the two lean completely off the fortress building before they started free-falling toward the battleground. As they sped to their designated location did an aura of sorts start to surround them, the woman a dark crimson red, while the other glowed a bright golden that is before they both just disappeared. Looking up did the transformed Sengoku frown as the battles around him sounded the area. What was that? But Luffy and Ace. Running and fighting their way through countless marines was both Luffy and Ace pummeling their way through desperately trying to get out of the way. Both exhausted yet kept fighting, know if they stopped there would be trouble. As Luffy used his gear second and in conjunction his Gomu Gomu, Jet Gatling and Ace's Hot Ruby, Firefly Light, before using his own conjunction with Hitoruma, Fiery Doll, making many marines caught in the crossfire of both attacks, either pummeled to death or burnt alive. As they raced from the execution platform did Ace glance at his younger adopted brother before smiling, "You've grown stronger Luffy," to which the younger pirate just looked his way before grinning. "Thanks, maybe now I can beat you." This just made Ace break out a grin of his own as they ran. "You wish Luffy," he said, that is before the two stopped in for ahead of them was Aokiji staring at them with both a bored yet saddened expression. The ground around him was already coating with ice as the air around them started to get colder by the second. Aokiji taking a step forward spoke. "You're not going anywhere Fire Fist Ace, neither are you Straw Hat Luffy." Both boys frowned at the admiral that is before Ace stepped up placing his hand on Luffy's shoulder getting his attention. Stepping forward did he speak. "You've done enough Luffy, it's time I protect you." With that Aokiji charged as did Ace, both charging their own Akuma no Mi powers. The surrounding pirates and marines neither didn't see this or were frozen on the spot of the clash about to happen. Speaking their words did they announce their attacks. Isukai. BM Kiji Kuchibashi, Ice Block. Pheasant Beak. With that Aokiji gathered up a massive amount of ice before swinging it toward Ace, the ice forming into a giant pheasant with wings and all in one blast. Seeing it coming Ace pushed both his flame-engulfed arms outward. Aiken, Mirror Flame. Pulsing the flames outward did Ace create a giant wall of pure orange-red flames, with it shooting toward the ice pheasant. The heat and coldness saturated the area already creating a light fog as nearby marines were lit on fire from the extreme heat of Ace's flames as pirates found it hard to move with ice, slowly moving up their bodies. "Ha!" They yelled in unison before their attacks collided. Boom. When the two attacks collided a great shockwave ripped through the area, blowing the unready Luffy back a few feet and the nearby marines and pirates back, that is before a thick steam erupted from the two attacks, thus covering the vicinity. But the steam was both Luffy and Ace staring at the uninjured Aokiji with his own attack, melted halfway with the head and upper body completely gone. It dropped to the ground busting into a million pieces of ice. Seeing this Ace stood his ground. "That is until. My sons. I am giving you all my final order." The Whitebeard pirates along with Ace and Luffy hearing this turned back to see their captain wounded severely but still standing. They replayed his words before protesting. Pops." Marco exclaimed only for him and the other protesting pirates to be silenced when Edward spoke once more. "Silence. This is a captain's final order and you will follow through with it, fall back to the new world safely. The new ERA does not need an old relic like me, there is no ship in the seas that can hold me. I will stay here to show these marine brats what a true pirate is capable of. Now go." Did Whitebeard shout to his crew, Ace and Luffy. The surrounding marines, Sengoku and admirals as well either had shocked or stone-firm serious expressions. Marco hearing this let a few tears fall before bowing his head before speaking. "Very well captain," yelled out the 1st Division commander. Tears swelling up in his eyes from his father's words as were other Whitebeard pirates having the same tears. As the crew started falling back did Whitebeard speak again. "My sons. Do not look back. Times are changing, the ERA of piracy shall live on and will forever conquer these marines, the world government and the world nobles, we shall topple them all. Do not look back." With his last words to his crew and sons does he rear back his fist gaining Sengoku's shocked look as did the watching admirals. "Ha!" With a swing as a quake bubble surrounded his fist, did he once hit the air, did the blue cracks appear before suddenly the ground started shaking before a great upheaval sounded as an earthquake erupted from Whitebeard's targeted fist, with the earthquake rippling through the land and into the Marine Base HQ. As the cracks and upheavals ripped through the area, marines all losing their balance and falling through those very cracks or the falling debris, did both Ace and Luffy stare at this in shock. To Ace it was a testament to his captain and father's power, as to Luffy it told him deep down this man, Whitebeard, was not only respected by Ace, had the power he couldn't even begin to imagine, but loved his crew so much to sacrifice himself for it. That action alone raised his respect for Whitebeard all the higher. Seeing the Marine HQ crumble did Sengoku roar in anger as the admirals frowned, even Borsellino himself. Whitebeard himself stood, tall and imposing, even with his severe injuries in front of the angry marines. His triumphant grin in place did he speak. "Marines. I challenge you to finish this battle once and for all. Which the Marines all but charged at him, swords and guns drawn. Seeing them coming, Whitebeard gripped his Bisento before channeling his Guruguru no Mi powers, forming a quake bubble which coated his blade. But the swing did he sent a whirlwind shockwave, disrupting and completely destroying the first wave of Marines, sending them high into the air. After which did he swing his quake-bubbled fist into another wave of Marines, producing a shockwave blowing them away, along with destroying countless buildings of Marineford. Looking at a couple of Marines trying to disrupt the fleeing pirates, did form yet another quake bubble, before punching the very ground itself, creating yet another earthquake, only this time a giant upheaval shot out of the ground and right through the Marines, chasing his sons. Hops. Hearing this did Whitebeard turn around, forgetting the regrouping Marines, and stare at Ace, who at the moment was now kneeling down on both hands and knees with his head down low. Tears freely falling from his eyes. Did Ace speak? Ops, I. He was stopped when Whitebeard just raised his hand. There is no need for words, I only ask you this question, Ace. Was I a good father? Said the teary-eyed Whitebeard, to which the question only made Ace cry even harder before uttering his words. Of course. Hearing this did Whitebeard only laughed heartily before turning back to the Marines. Seeing this, Ace stood back up and turned around before speeding away, never looking back like his father ordered. Come on Luffy, time to go. Which the straw hat wearing team nodded in agreement with it. The two sped forward with the Whitebeard pirates. As they left, though running with the remaining pirates, did Ace hear someone speak. Marines seeing them go to the dock boats turned to Admiral Akainu. Admiral. They're trying to board the ships. The man just scowled before rearing back his right fist, dripping with his Magu no Mi powers. I Funka, great eruption. Throwing his fist outward did an oversized rocket into the fleeing pirates, burning and melting them in the scorching magma's heat. Looking at the fleeing sons of both Roger and Dragon, did the Akainu speak. Fleeing right after you have grabbed Fire Fist. Ace, what a bunch of cowards you Whitebeard pirate scum are. Then again, Whitebeard is no different, seeing as his nothing more than a failure of the previous era. Hearing this did Ace stop in a slide with Luffy stopping a few feet from him. Ace. The teen only glanced back at Akainu with a rageful gaze. What did you just say? His tone frighteningly cold, yet a deep lingering tint of killing intent showed. Akainu though wasn't deterred and spoke once more. Whitebeard is nothing more than a fool that lost to your father. Roger. He couldn't even become a king even after his own death. Whitebeard is a failure forever and shall be in the next life. Ace is practically lit ablaze at the Admiral's words as he took a step forward, ignoring those trying to pull him back. I'll kill you, Sakazuki. His arms erupted into flames as he gathered flames into his right arm. He ignored the cries and shouts of him to get back or his brother's attempts to turn around. All he wanted to do was kill this man that had insulted his father and savior. Rearing back his fist did Ace speak. You know nothing of Pops. So shove your words down your preaching justice mouth. This era is called Whitebeard. Hearing this, Akainu frowned at Ace's words before rearing back his own fist. Yelling out their attacks did they both pushed their fist outward. I Funka. I can, Fire Fist. The two attacks exploded from both users' arms in forms of fists when they both collided though. Boom. A small explosion of both magma, fire and smoke as the two challenging attacks struggled for dominance, but quickly Akainu's attack won over, thus causing yet another explosion, only this time some of the magma's heat burning Ace's left arm. Ah! Screamed Ace as he fell to the ground clutching his heavily injured arm. See. Luffy started only to fall to his knees, coughing up blood and panting from extreme exhaustion. Jin kneeled before him with a worried expression. Luffy, you've hit your limit. But the teen didn't care, he had to get Ace, his brother, out of here and safe. Though when he looked down did he see his brother's beaver card idly stretching out to get it, did he not see the gaze he got from Akainu? Pirate King Gold D. Roger and Revolutionary Dragons, their sons becoming brothers is something truly to be feared, downright scary. I will not let you two go. And seeing what the man was about to do, Ace only had the strength to speak. Hey, no wait. But it was too late as Akainu jumped over Ace and prepared to strike down the teen. Jin, not able to react in time, could only watch in horror as Akainu prepared to strike down Luffy. Luffy? A flash before Ace appeared in front of Luffy, his front facing him, prepared to take the hit. Luffy looked up only to see this. But. Clang. This stops here, a marine said, a voice that somehow sounded through the whole battlefield. Getting the attention of all in the vicinity, everyone from the admirals to the Shichibukai to Whitebeard and Sengoku themselves. Smoker and Tashigi as well looked at where the voice came from, only to see something that made the cigar in Smoker's mouth go completely slack. Or in the beautiful woman's case, her glasses drooped past her wide eyes. Even the other two admirals had surprised looks in their eyes. Though Garp, Whitebeard and Sengoku though turning their attention toward this showed surprise, or in both Whitebeard's and Garp's case shock. The Shichibukai looked at the scene, and all had reactions to this. Doflamingo was now sporting his trademark grin, only it more insane than usual. Gecko was himself looking upon the scene with his own grin, though there was a curious look in his eyes. Kuma, thought to be believed to be completely cybernetic, showed a slight surprised expression. Mihik himself, though, was sporting an unusual wide-eyed look, that is before an uncharacteristic grin came upon his face. Hancock, though, the biggest reaction, for her body trembled and shook at what she was seeing, but also sensing her eyes just quivered and clouded with something unforeseen. A tear fell from her eye as she looked upon the scene in front of her. Taking a step forward, she spoke so quietly no one could have possibly heard her. This hockey, it's the same as his sea, could it be? For she, like all the others, were seeing something that was completely out of this world. It was something that was forever burned into their minds and their very souls for both pirate and marine. But Luffy and Ace. Ace thought many things when he stepped in front of Akanu's attack that was intended for his little brother: pain, excruciating pain, searing and burning flesh, and even his own death. He had come right before the Admiral could fully complete his swing and stood in front of Luffy himself in a crouching position, knees bended and arms stretched outward, his back ready to shield the attack. Yet instead of feeling the attack, the pain and his life slipping away, he felt a warm and comforting aura fill him as a soft tender hand was placed upon his burnt arm. Confused, did Ace slowly open his eyes to see his little brother staring at him in pure shock, yet was also staring past him. Confused even more, he tried to turn around only to hear a voice so angelic and almost motherly sound through his ear. "That's enough, Ace, you and Luffy have done enough, just relax." Hearing this, Ace as well as the viewers turned to a cloaked hooded figure standing beside Ace. Her hands were clasping his burnt arm as a green glowing energy outlined her hands. What?" he uttered, only to fall to his knees, feeling the exhaustion coming to him. Yet he felt the woman's other hand press against him, holding him up. Though he was apprehensive, Ace couldn't deny the energy flowing from this strange woman felt relaxing and was in some way taking away his exhaustion. He never did see the wounds across his body and arms slowly heal. "Don't worry, you're both in good hands now, let us deal with things now." Ace didn't know why, but this voice for some reason sounded so familiar. He didn't know why, it just did, but it also filled him with a sense of protection, like a mother's warm embrace. He looked at his brother to see his own eyes filled with the same sense of familiarity as well. He then remembered her last words to which he just spoke. What do you mean by us?" The woman just let out a giggle that was so heavenly that it sounded like trumpets of the angels and the melody of Kami herself. "Look behind you," and he did, and what he saw shocked him to his very core, and much like the rest, his eyes widened so much they threatened to pop out of their sockets. For before him, and the reason to everyone's shock, was a figure standing behind him cloaked with the same type of hood as the woman, only this person showed was a male by the show of his more muscular physique instead of the curves from the woman. But what really got his attention was what he was doing in front of Akenu. It was the man holding back Akanu's attack. With only his bare hand. He saw the shocked expression of Akenu and briefly wondered why the Admiral was shocked, but when he saw the small trace of fear in the man's eyes, did he really want to know who this man was to make even an Admiral feel such an emotion? So pathetic to attack these boys as exhausted as they are. Truly, you Marines have no honor, you Akenu are the worst of them all. You prey upon those that cannot defend themselves, proclaiming your so-called justice when you're nothing more than a murderer. Clenching his hand, did the man gather up his Buzushoku haki into his left leg before delivering a bone-crushing kick to the Admiral's face, rocketing the man past Marines and pirates alike. "Ahhh." Sakazuki yelled before he practically slammed right into the ground, creating a long 1-mile-wide trench as he kept skidding back before stopping once he rammed into one of the upheavals Whitebeard had created. Standing back up fully from his attack on Sakazuki, did the cloaked figure turn his attention to the shocked admirals, Sengoku, Garp and Whitebeard. Looking at them from the shadows of his hood, did he speak without a hint of fear. "Hello Garp, Sengoku, Whitebeard, how long's it been?" This voice made all three men's eyes widen, along with both Mihik's and Hancock's. Hearing that voice made Sengoku go completely pale, than he already was. "So you've both come, have you?" he stated with a firm tone that hid the worry and fear rising deep within his soul. The cloaked figures both just grasped their hoods before pulling them back, thus eliciting shocked reactions from many people. Both Akiji and Kizaru went wide-eyed before both stumbled in sheer shock. Whitebeard himself, despite the wounds he had, was now grinning like a madman. Garp himself was having a hard time not going into cardiac arrest at the two people he was seeing. Sengoku himself was now pale as a ghost, while he broke into a nervous sweat, yet didn't show much outer emotion as to not worry his Marines. Even if right now he was inwardly terrified. Yes, it has been a long time. Uzumaki D. Naruto. Uzumaki D. Kushina. Chapter 1. Return, Family and War. Silence. Complete and utter silence filled the once war-torn battlefield that were once occupied by battling pirates and Marines. Only now every single one, whether they be Marine or pirate, were now utterly shocked to their very core. Even the fleeing Whitebeard pirates that heard the names stumbled in shock at hearing those two names. The one who mostly fell to the ground in pure surprise was Marco himself, who had looked back disregarding his captain's orders only for his eyes to widen completely. "I can't be Naruto and Kushina. It was said they died long ago when Roger was executed." That was the same thoughts running through a number of people that remembered the duo. More so, that being Sengoku, Garp, and the admirals. Doflamingo himself was eyeing the now revealed duo with a now clearly seen serious expression that never is seen before on his face. Mihawk though was looking at them both with something akin to respect clear in his eyes. His eyes flickered briefly to the revealed Kushina as a smirk crossed his face. "So you two have appeared once more, wonder what chaos you'll bring this time." Uma, being completely cybernetic now, could only stare at the now revealed Uzumaki's in nothing more than a slight surprised expression. Though his eyes did flash in recognition of sorts. Hancock though must have been the strangest one, for she was not only stumbling toward them in shock, but tears trailed down her glistening eyes. Eyes att, those eyes, they're the same ones. She couldn't help but stare the now revealed Uzumaki's, mainly Naruto himself, but the woman beside him healing Ace and Luffy of their wounds. She did though freeze up when the male Uzumaki cast her gaze that made her just freeze on the spot. Seeing those sapphire orbs just made the unshedded tears fall from her face. His small smile just warmed her heart and her entire being. Kizaru and Aokiji were trying their best to not just pass out in sheer shock. Right before their very eyes was the two people they never dreamed to see again. The very people that made even them tremble in their boots. They could still remember what the two did on that day, and even then it still haunts their deepest darkest corners of their mind. Their fellow Admiral Sakazuki knew too well, for he was there also on that day when the two appeared. So much death followed soon afterwards. Ikami, they haven't aged a day since then. Sengoku and Garp though were having the toughest of times staring at the two people they never wished to see again, more in Sengoku's case, for he himself knew these two were much more dangerous than any pirate in history seen before. The only person to come to their level was Roger himself, and that was pushing it in itself. They couldn't help but gaze at their faces once more, and just seeing them made their very souls cringe in terror. Garp himself didn't hold anything back and just looked down solemnly, which Naruto noted yet didn't pay any heed. Finally Whitebeard was well. Despite his massive injuries and his imminent death, all he could do was grinning like a madman, a man of old age, yet his eyes just gazed at those two with both respect yet excitement which ran down his very soul. Honestly, just looking at their faces made him see behind them the grinning face of his old rival Roger, looking at the Marines with just pure killing intent. "I can definitely die in peace knowing these two are here to protect the new age and bring into a completely new era with them leading it. I have no qualms with dying." Looking at the two, did he see not only had they not aged a day since he last saw them, but they looked even better than he's ever seen them before. He couldn't help but marvel their features as he remembered them when he was younger and in his prime. In the days when he was much stronger and agile, in the days he could have wiped Marineford off the face of the map easily. But Kushina, with her hood completely off, showed her angelic face and vibrant red-maroon long red hair, that which resembled flowing liquid blood. Her heart-shaped face, that which looked like the face of a goddess, that with beauty none could ever possibly compare. Her wrathful yet gentle violet eyes remained the same as always, that seemed to calm the most rageful monster, but glared at could make your very heart implode from within. Her milky smooth porcelain skin glistened, showing how smooth it was compared to others. Her hands glowing with green energy as they healed the two teens of their injuries, her smile in place that looked like a mother's smile which confused the two boys. Then came Naruto, a man Whitebeard had come to respect yet fear like he did Kushina, but not on the same level. A man his own rival Roger respected without question and followed him to the ends of the oceans. His long spiky golden black streaked hair that fell past his neckline and to his shoulder blades, with it covering most of his ears and the bangs, shadowing parts of his eyes, yet it seemed much longer but was hidden by the cloak. His tan almost bronze skin glistened in what sunlight could pierce the darkening skies. His signature sapphire piercing orbs that looked like they could stab you and tear out your soul if you annoyed him, but when angered could literally make you drop dead where you stood. The slits in his eyes only gave him that more fearful expression, yet they were softer and warm when they gazed toward both the healing Ace and Luffy. "Ace, Luffy, no worries, just rest and let Jin carry you two out of here," spoke the blonde, confusing the two even more, yet Jin himself just stared at the two in a more concentrated manner. His eyes glazed over as they tried to remember something. Something important. "WW, who are you guys? WW, why are you helping us?" asked a suspicious Ace. He had grown up to know people didn't help you without a cause. Even in the midst of war he stuck to this and would forever, though he blinked when the man suddenly turned around before he placed both his hands on both his and Luffy's head, making them blink confusingly. Well, our names are what that dude with the fro said. My name's Uzumaki T Naruto, and that there is my lovely wife Uzumaki T Kushina. As for why we're helping you, do we really need a reason to help out our own family, he said with a grin that looked so identical to Roger's own, it made those slightly shiver. Though when those that heard this went completely silent. They having trouble of what they just heard, family. These boys had family other than their fathers and Garp himself. Many questions popped into those that didn't know of Naruto or Kushina, but those that did, their eyes just widened so greatly they would have popped out of their heads. What? Sputtered Smoker as he gazed at the two, his eyes widened so greatly his cigar forgone long ago onto the ground, his finger pointing shakily at the duo, fear clear in his eyes. Toshigi herself couldn't say anything for she was too hypnotized at the sight of the two and of how the man just kicked an admiral of Akanu's level like it was child's play. Though looking at his face did her cheeks slightly heat up, thus making her look down, trying to hide her flushing cheeks. What's wrong with me? Garp frowned before looking down as to not see the scrutinizing gaze from Sengoku, nor the betrayed look Kushina and Naruto was giving him. He was feeling the ultimate guilt crashing down on him when he felt their glares on him. He was sure if he looked up he'd be on the receiving end of two very pissed pair of eyes. But the two brothers, all they could do was gape up at the two who looked at them in amusement, their jaws comically on the ground, or in Luffy's case fallen and stretched far beyond that. Did they hear right? They were family. How so? They only had Garp as their grandfather, and they only knew of their respective fathers' names other than that. How uttered Luffy, ace too shocked to speak. Hearing this, Naruto just ruffled Luffy's hair, making him blink confusingly before he looked back up at the gathering marines, admirals and Whitebeard himself. Don't worry, you and Ace will know later. Right now you two need to get out of here, we'll be handling this from now on, and before the two could say anything, Naruto quickly knocked them out in the neck, making fall forward into Kushina's arms. Then she gently walked up to the shocked Jin, gently she gave the fishman a smile. Jin-san, do us this favor and get those two boys out of here, we'll protect your back. Too long have we been away from the two, go and take them on Trafalgar Law and his submarine, he and his medics can heal the two, now get going, she said, making the fishman just give a slow nod before placing the two over his shoulder before speeding forward, which he was followed by the Whitebeard pirates. Seeing this, the vice admiral spoke, Straw Hat Luffy and Fire First Ace are getting away after them. But when Naruto heard this he frowned before Sengoku or the admirals could even utter a word. The blonde man just vanished before appearing in front of the charging marines, them being over 100 officers and vice admirals. Then without warning did he just glare at them, letting loose a good pulse of Hashoku haki of the color of the conquering king. Thus in a swirl of wind and a pulse from Naruto did the marines and those that were in the line of fire just drop dead, their brains nothing but mush. Looking up at those that saw this did Naruto just let loose a glare that made another pulse blow from his body, cracking the very ground, causing a crater. You marines aren't going anywhere, you wanna fight, you fight us. He said before brought down his legs, stomping the ground, making it shake and tremble before the shock of all and the amusement of Whitebeard did an upheaval of both earth and water shoot up into the air in the area where more marines were chasing after Jin. Looking toward Kushina did he give a nod, making her nod as well before the two gazed back at the stern Sengoku, who was now standing in front of the ruined execution platform. Garp beside him, who was wearing a stone-firm expression as well, the surrounding marines now looking at them brandishing their weapons. Kizaru and Aokiji in front of them as well, both wearing a serious expression as well, more of a fearful one, though for Aokiji in his case. Then there was the Shichibukai, looking at them did Naruto and Kushina give most of them a deadly gaze, except for Mihawk and Hancock themselves. Though Kuma himself was just gazing down at them with his now monotone expression. The Shichibukai standing at the sides of the two admirals. Staring down their enemies, did the two Uzumakis gaze at their side to see Whitebeard looking at them with a sense of amusement, yet a type of sorrow as well. Why are two of you legends like yourselves back here? It was thought you both died, spoke the emotionless Sengoku. Naruto just gave him a small glance before clenching his fist, infusing his haki. Did he send an all-around pulse of haki, knocking out some of the weaker-minded marines, killing them on the spot, and making those that had experience just pass out from the sheer pressure on their minds. You should know by now as well as Garp, on that day we warned the both of you if any of our family was threatened, we would appear. It seems none of you idiots took us seriously. Well, you're gonna pay for it, as well as your pathetic world government. Spoke Kushina as she glared at Garp the most as Naruto just stared at the stone-firm yet pale Sengoku. That's right, and since this is a war you'll be fighting us instead, so you best be ready, muttered Naruto, his piercing azure-slitted eyes staring them all down, making some take a few steps back, or in Smoker's case tremble. Though to their whole shock did Naruto just vanish once more. Only for a painful cry to sound the area. Looking where it came from they saw the Admiral Akainu hunched over with Naruto's fist embedded into his stomach. The two being near the fleeing pirates, more precisely near the fleeing Jin and the two brothers. Sengoku could only grimace when Naruto grasped Akainu by his face before he slammed him into the ground, causing a crater. The first one to die is this fool. The war now truly begins. With that, not waiting for Akainu to reply, did Naruto pull him back from the dirt before coating his fist with his Busoshoku haki, making it blaze up with a azure aura before he just punched the admiral in the face. Somehow the man's face just caved on itself as a muffled scream of both pain and anguish was heard from the muffled admiral. But soon Sakazuki just shot off like a rocket from Naruto's fist before he just hurtled past the shocked Sengoku, before he slammed right into the devastated Marine HQ, right into the kanji for justice, thus shattering it all to hell. Reacting quickly, did Naruto just appear once more beside Kushina, the woman, giving him a smile, to which he returned. Turning their attention back at the shocked Marines, did both Naruto and Kushina grasp their cloaks before speaking. Now let's begin. With they pulled their cloaks off, revealing themselves to the world once again. And what they saw made Mihik just grin and both Garp and Sengoku frown. But Kushina, she was dressed in a form-fitting crimson tank top showing her developed bust and her midriff. Below this was skin-tight black trousers that went past her knees and stopped there. Crimson flames licked the bottoms of the trousers as a golden sash wrapped around her waist with a small end hanging from the left. Her long maroon hair fell below her lower back and to her butt, with her two long red bangs framing the sides of her face, which were held with purple hair clips. On her feet was a pair of open-toed sandals oddly similar to Luffy himself. On her left hip though was a katana of sorts. At first it looked normal by other people, but to swordsmen of the greatest quality, it was simply majestic yet deadly all the same. It was simple, with a black sheath with a crimson outline. A spiraling dragon could be seen going around the sheath, being pure golden. The guard was a golden color, with the handle being a blood red crimson. The pommel being a somewhat unique skull and crossbones. Finally, around her on her left hand on her ring finger was in fact a wedding ring, showing her unity with Naruto. Speaking of Naruto, when his cloak came off, did it show himself full out in his own clothing. Standing a good 6'2", he had a simple black muscle shirt which acted like a second skin, showing his ripped chest and rock-hard 8-pack. On down he wore black cargo pants with many pockets. On his feet were a pair of pitch black pirate boots with the bottom of the pants tucked inside. With his cloak off now, his hair could be seen fully, showing his long mane of golden black streaked hair that covered the most of his back. Finally, like Kushina, he too had a weapon placed in his sash, but it was a saber with it larger than normal ones. The sheath was a pitch black with a golden outline. Upon the handle it was a striking crimson, with the guard being pure golden. Upon his wrists was in log pose, and on his left hand and on the ring finger was himself a ring showing his unity to Kushina. Last was around his neck was a necklace of some sort with a silver skull pendant that seemed to glow as the battle was about to start. Slowly pulling out their weapons, did Naruto point his toward the enemies before speaking, "Now your battle is with us." And with that the two charged at the Marines' admirals. But Jinbe and Trafalgar. Upon coming to the submarine, did Jinbe relinquished of both Ace and Luffy before they were rushed to the medical bay for immediate healing. As they did, both former Shichibukai and Supernova stood outside on the deck of the submarine watching the battle take place. And what they saw shocked Trafalgar and Jinbe. It honestly scared the two more so Law himself at how easily the blonde-haired one was able to take down an admiral, and with such ease like he's been doing it for years. But even that wasn't enough, for when he let loose his haki, it made them stumble or fall to their knees. And they weren't even targeted or even in the range of its radius, just a mere shockwave sent them rolling. All they could do was watch as the two charged into battle with the Marines and admirals, resulting in a massive clash, sending another shockwave with the fodder Marine foot soldiers into the swirling winds of each clash. Who are these people?" muttered Trafalgar, his eyes watching the scene before him, his body all but trembled and flinched with each clash. The very ground around crater with each attack made, screams of the dying Marine sounded the area as more were sent flying by the massive shockwaves. "I don't know, but it was a miracle they came, if not we'd be in even more trouble. Thankfully, with their interference Ace was saved. I can only thank them immensely for this," said the fishman. Trafalgar just nodded as he gazed down at the battle happening before his very eyes. The word power that he knew was nothing to what he was seeing now. The very ground was trembling and cracking, the sky itself was ripping themselves apart from each clash. The pacifistas were utterly decimated like they were nothing more than mere target dummies. Truly it was a mind-blower to Trafalgar, as his very reality was on the brink of shattering at the unbelievable sight before him. He could only wonder how the other supernovas would react to these people. Forget that the whole pirate origin would be shaken at this. Jinbe himself was in deep thought as he gazed at the two battling Uzumaki. Something about them, and something Neptune and Atoham told him and Tiger before their leave made him frown. "Tiger, Jibe, remember these words: if you two ever, and I mean ever, come across two people that have the middle initial of D and have the mark of Asinus and T, these report back to us as fast as possible. You see, Jin-kun, Tiger-kun, these two people are very important people to us and the whole aquatic race. They're very good friends of ours and of our children. Please, we ask you, if you ever happen to come across them, ask them to visit us." Jin frowned remembering those words as he gazed at the battle happening before him. His eyes fixated on the two Uzumakis. That is before something flashed back into his mind. The words spoken by Garp when him and Ace were in Impel Down. The rulers of the sea shall only rise up once more when they are thou called upon. When their family is threatened will the two rulers of the ocean appear once more. By Neptune it can't be, stuttered the now wide-eyed Jin. The fishman stumbled back trembling all the more, he had to grip the railing to balance himself as the overwhelming shock came over him. Trafalgar looked at him confusingly, yet he too would have been shocked if he knew the realization Jin just came to. And to think Ace and Luffy are related to those two by Neptune's trident, what will happen now? If only he knew the titanic maelstrom of change was coming and it was gonna sweep in all in its path before pulling them into the new era. With Kobe and Helmeppo. What on earth is this, uttered the petrified Kobe. Him and Helmeppo were hiding among the dead bodies of their former comrades. They knew this battle that was happening now would kill them from just the mere shockwaves from the battles. No matter what kind of training they went through, they were not and never will be ready for this. Seeing two people alone fight against the world government's strongest. I know, and that golden-haired guy he tossed Admiral Akainu around like he was nothing. What are these people, are they even human? Muttered the equally horrified Helmeppo. Kobe just kept watching at the battle as more bodies of Marines flew past them, some dead, some dismembered and some downright torn to pieces. These people are not human, they're monsters. If only he knew how true that statement was. But Smoker and Toshigi. On the battlefield in the rear line with the other vice admirals was Smoker, gripping his sea stone mate Judd as his eyes glared upon the two people that made him feel the true meaning of fear. A feeling he has never wanted to feel again. He still remembered what those two did on that day. Leaning to the left did Smoker dodge an incoming Marine soldier being blasted by the resulting backlashing winds. Looking upon the closing in Uzumaki's did Smoker let loose a curse. Damn it, they haven't gotten any weaker since that day, just how monstrous are they? He spoke, making his second-in-command female swordswoman look at him in confusion. The woman had a hard time not falling to her knees in the sheer pressure of the haki being released. Though she couldn't help but be amazed by the two Uzumaki's swordsmanship, with but a swing Marines were lifted from the ground and sent into the air of the chaotic winds. Those that tried to repel them were decimated, that's all she could say. Swords, katanas, hell even the Akuma no Mi, devil fruit users they had were nothing before them. When she heard Smoker's words though did she grow curious of them even more than she already was. What do you mean, Captain? What have these two done in the past? Smoker just glanced her way before looking back at the battle at hand. Brandishing his Judd did he just walk forward before speaking. These people Toshigi are the ones that committed the massacre of the Tenryubito and are the ones responsible of taking Gold D. Rogers' body from the government's hands on the day of his own execution, he said, making the young swordswoman's eyes widen greatly. Anyone and everyone in the Marines knew of the massacre out of the world nobles. It was an event that shook the entire world when two unknown assassins appeared on the day of the attack on Mariajois. Those two assassins were unknown at the time, with only those of the higher-ups knowing. But it was on that day over 100 world nobles were killed. Brutally murdered and dismembered. It was the bloodiest day of the world government history, as the blood of the nobles was spilt on the grounds of their very own city, the slaves they kept locked up spitting on their dead corpses as they got out of there. But the one about Roger's body being taken away that confused her. And why did Captain's eyes turn fearful at that? With Naruto and Kushina. Blocking another attack from Marines did Naruto swing his saber, making them blow away from him. He ducked under another swing before he delivered a quick jab to the Marine's stomach, pulverizing his stomach and shattering his spine from just that. Spinning around did he slam his foot once more into the ground, causing another upheaval appear, only this time of pure seawater. It shot up from the ground like a giant pillar, a geyser of sorts. It shot straight up into the air, taking with it countless Marines. "Isukaira Mirahoko, ice block partisan," shouted a voice Naruto knew well enough as countless upon countless ice spears appeared before shooting toward him. That is until he heard another voice making him smirk. "Yasukani no Magatama, 8 Shaku curved jewel." A soprano-like voice shouted as between the incoming ice spears did countless beams of light appear as well. Seeing the incoming attacks did Naruto just smirk before he pulled his saber outward before slamming his other hand on the ground before shouting. "Yuzushoku. Bodhi M, color of the armaments. Body armor." Right before the attacks hit him did his body just be engulfed in a fiery blazing aura of gold. Boom. "Nice try you two, but you'll need to do better than that," said Naruto as the ground around him was nothing more than a gigantic crater the size of which could have taken out small battleship. Yet not a scratch could be seen on him. His saber grip did Naruto look up at his two attackers to see both Admirals Kizaru and Aokiji before him, the latter of which adorning a serious expression, while the former was as usual laid back, yet a serious glint hidden by his orange-tinted glasses. Seems even now you are monstrous as ever, Uzumaki spoke. Aokiji, sheets of frost and ice surrounding his body partially but not overly so. The very ground around him froze up as the freezing air surrounded the area. Kizaru himself just took a step forward before speaking. It's been a long time, bloody MAELSTROOOOOM apostrophe, spoke the light man in his usual manner. Naruto himself just smirked at the name given to him. That is before his hand shot up, stopping a kick from Kizaru, him not moving an inch from the attack, but the area behind didn't, for it was all just blown away in the aftermath shockwave. There's still one to jump and head first, Borsalino. Fool, and before the admiral could react, Naruto had already jumped into the air, delivering a roundhouse hockey-infused kick to the man's chest, resulting in him hurtling right into a couple of Marineford buildings. One slamming into them did Naruto take his saber and gather his hockey into it, making it flame up into a golden aura before swinging it toward the location Borsalino hit. Yuzushoku. Kinjutsu. Katingutsuki, color of the armaments. Sword style. Cutting moon. And with such speed and accuracy did the golden aura from his saber just solidify, and upon end swing, did a giant arc of golden hockey shoot off from him. It was such a height it split the sky itself, ripping apart the clouds and tearing the ground up like it was butter. Marines in the way of the attack were cut clean through, showering the ground in blood and gore. Aokiji cursed not being able to stop it in time, but also couldn't help but gaze in slight amazement at the giant hockey attack. It still reminded him all those years ago of this man's danger level and of what he could if he was serious. Those that saw the battle between the three could only gape in pure shock as the two admirals being held back by one man. The strongest besides Sengoku and the Gorosei themselves. Toshigi and Mihik marveled at the sight of the giant sword slash heading for the admiral, for it was plainly just too hard not seeing it since it was slicing the very heavens. Borsalino himself, exploding out of the building, only showed signs of surprise when his eyes widened behind his glasses. Boom. Another titanic explosion rocked the battleground, it lighting up the sky and the giant sphere of destruction, vaporizing all in its path. The clouds parted way as did the ocean from the attack. Marine foot soldiers could only run in terror as the sphere of chaos pulled them up, vaporizing them utterly and completely. "Oh my kami," uttered Toshigi as she gazed at the fiery sphere of destruction, surprise yet amazement clear in her eyes. Her hands trembled with both fear and excitement at seeing such an attack. Smoker, seeing this, could only shake his head at his subordinate's taste in weapons and techniques. With Naruto, he suddenly ducked under a kick from Aokiji, cratering the ground in front of him. Reacting quickly did he do a handstand before delivering a kick to the man's chin. But the admiral acted before delivering a quick jab at Naruto, only for it to be caught by Naruto's hand. Spinning did Naruto spread out his legs before kicking Aokiji multiple times like a pinwheel. That is before he jumped up before delivering a kick to the man's abdomen, making him cough up blood before he skidded back a few feet. Rearing back his hands, making them be coated in ice, did the admiral shout. "Urmirahoko, partisan." He shouted this time. Unlike his last ice attack, the spears were much more refined and numerous in number. Throwing his arms outward did they shoot toward Naruto, who drew his saber before in only a master swordsman could do, parry each spear, making them pierce the ground around him. When he saw them all gone did he look up only to see Aokiji up in the air, this time gathering more ice into his arms. Isukai. BM Kiji Kuchibashi, ice block. Pheasant beak. And the same attack from Ace came down, only it much bigger than before. Seeing it coming down on him, Naruto just grasped his saber in his left hand before clenching his right fist, making it blaze with his fiery golden hockey. Try something else, Buzushoku. Taijutsu. Hasai Ken, color of the armaments. Hand to hand. Crushing fist. And with a swing did Naruto's blazing fist impact onto the giant ice bird. A silence followed before suddenly the bird just cracked before it shattered as a golden beam of hockey blasted through, melting the ice, complete with it still going up into the sky, shooting a hole through the clouds. Damn, still as powerful as ever, Aokiji mentally grimaced as he looked at his slightly scorched left arm. He was able to get out in time from taking the full brunt of the attack, but it still got him on his left arm. Looking down at the man did the admiral let loose a small frown as he landed back on the ground. "You're still as strong as ever. I see old age still hasn't caught up to you," he spoke. Naruto just gave him a smirk before his eyes looked to the right. Right then did Kizaru appear beside Aokiji, not dead as some marines believed, but wasn't unscathed either. His suit was burned very much so, and his admiral's mantle was completely gone. His chest adorning a giant cut that was bleeding out. "Muash muash. This guy is still monstrously powerful as EVERRR," spoke the admiral. Naruto just gave a small shrug while Aokiji just nodded in agreement with his fellow admiral. Finally the two set their sights on Naruto, who stood there undamaged and unscathed. Finally taking it full out did Aokiji speak. "Isuesberu, I saber," and right then did a giant sword of ragged ice appear in Aokiji's hands, it long as himself in height. Then Kizaru slammed his hands together before separating them. Ama no Murakumo, sword of the gathering clouds of heaven. Then like Aokiji did a sword of pure light form in Kizaru's hands. It as tall as himself. Brandishing it out along his fellow admiral did they stare down their enemy. Naruto, watching the two form their own weapons, shook his head before pointing his saber toward them. The ground cracked and cratered around him as his haki slowly surrounded his body in a fiery blazing golden aura. Glaring at the two admirals did he speak. "Alright kids, come at me." And they did, with three charging at each other. Did they all swing as one? Boom. With Kushina. On the other side of the battlefield is another explosion in the battle between Naruto and the two admirals. This one making Kushina look its way as she swiped down another group of marines. That is until she felt a presence behind her. Looking over her shoulder did she, to her slight surprise, Dracula Mihik himself grasping his Kakut Myoru, Black Sword Knight. Kushina smiled when he saw the excited look in Mihik's eyes, with his grin in place, unlike his usual emotionless look, pulling her katana out at glimmering through the smoke and winds of battle. "Well, Mi-chan, seems you've grown since the last time I saw you," she said, making the swordsman twitch at the name. Brandishing out his giant sword did he speak. "Kushina, you best be ready to fight, cause here I come," he said. Then he, without warning, did Mihik disappear, only for him to appear in front of Kushina mid-swing. Clang. "Sorry Mi-chan, but you should know better than to go before a woman, especially me," and that's the only warning Mihik got before Kushina kicked him in the stomach before slashing down at him. Sensing this, Mihik quickly blocked the attack, only this time the resulting clash cratered the ground where he stood. Looking up did he see the amused eyes of Kushina. This seemed to anger him, thus he kicked off the ground before he speaking. "Bakudo Issen, Black Blade single flash," he said, and with a swing and his hawk eyes glaring at Kushina, did a green compressed air arc come toward Kushina. Seeing this, Kushina quickly brought up her katana before smiling, reopening her eyes did she speak. "Don't take me for a weakling, Mi-chan Atoryu. Dorgunkerm. Rick no Kasai Suepu, one sword style. Dragon claw style. Dragon fire swipe," and right before Mihik's eyes did Kushina's katana just be engulfed in flames before she swung down, making a giant arc of flames shoot toward his own attack, but, to his surprise, the giant arc separated and formed into three fiery dragon talons, the first of which cutting right through his own Kakuto Issen. Seeing the two others coming did Mihik just cut them both in half, making them separate before impacting onto the surrounding marines, burning and incinerating them. Turning back, ignoring their screams of pain, did he just stare at Kushina, to which she stared back. "Let's see who's the best, sensei. We can finally find out who's the better swordsman right now," he said, to which Kushina just smiled before shaking her head. Gripping her katana, making it once more be engulfed in crimson flames, did she speak. "Sorry Mi-chan, but this is a battle I'm gonna be taking," she said before her eyes just turned into pure flames as the crimson maroon hair billowed in the raging winds. Making them oddly look like her hair was pure flames as well. "Very seriously, you better be ready, my old student," and right before Mihik's eyes did she just disappear. Mihik cursed before bringing up his sword. Clang. Another sound of steel hitting steel erupted, only this time a shockwave erupted from the whole area. Fire and stone blew outward in a spiraling whirlwind. Within was the clashing swordsman and swordwoman. Clashing multiple times at speeds none could possibly decipher, except for only one other person. The ground around gained slices from their attacks or just shattered from the pressure of each clash. Locking another attack did Mihik flip into the air before speaking. "Kakuto Arahashi, Black Blade Heavy Star." Standing onto his sword did he come down, his blade aiming straight toward Kushina. The woman, seeing this, rolled back just in time as the sword slammed into the ground, thus causing it to split apart. Taking this chance, Kushina brought her fire engulfed katana and swung forward. "Itoryu. Dorgunkerm. Rick's Brawl no Kerm, single sword style. Dragon claw style. Dragon spiral claw." Suddenly three spiraling dragon claws come off her swing, shaped in fire spiral toward Mihik. Seeing this, the man quickly pulled out his sword before he swung his sword downward, clashing with the claws. The attack struggled with small shock waves ripping through them, the ground cratered with each one before finally. Boom. An explosion ripped the area apart, a giant flaming sphere erupted once more, incinerating the nearby foot soldier marines. As it grew, as did it in width. That is until it slowly stopped before it too exploded in a fiery hurricane. Melting the ground as it did in cooling lava. In the center of the explosion area was both Kushina and Mihik. Kushina normal and unscathed as ever, but, unlike her, Mihik was a totally different story. His clothes were all but burned, but, still hanging onto his body, his wide black feathered hat was now completely gone, as was his plain dark cloak completely gone as well. His body was slightly burned as well, but not overly so, but the most damage was his sword, it being slightly chipped in a few places. Upon realizing this, Mihik's eyes just flared slightly in anger. "Damn it. Sensei, use your true power, quit using these parlor tricks." He shouted at his former sensei. Kushina, hearing this, just let out a sigh as the hockey-induced flame she created suddenly disappeared, and replaced with it was Kushina's eyes, now changed from a pure violet flaming orbs, with them now being sharp as the sharpest sword, able to pierce the very fabric of reality itself. Gripping her now normal katana, yet nowhere near normal, did she speak in a tone only reserved for those of the highest order of both killing and skill. "You child have no authority over me, you are still the impatient little brat form back then, it is time I disciplined you," and before Mihik could even utter a word, a flash of silver appeared before over his left shoulder blade did a slash appear with it spurting out blood. "Ah." He grunted, that is before he caught another flash from the corner of his eyes. This time he acted, gripping his sword and swinging it toward the direction of the flash did he speak. "Bakudo Saku, Black Blade first day." And with it he quickly swung downward, about to clash once more. They did, only this time was Mihik being glared at by the very eyes of Kushina, but her violet orbs now sharp and deadly as he remembered. Pulling back before swinging once more did this time. Clang. Their clash once more, causing a hurricane of wind and debris to appear, only this time, the ground itself cratering with small cuts. Marines near the clash were cut into nothing but ribbons. The blood swept into the air, painting the hurricane a crimson red as the organs fell to the ground. Kushina disappeared only to appear a few feet in front of Mihik. This time she placed her katana in its sheath, but once Mihik saw it slowly being drawn did his eyes widen in shock. It only got worse when Kushina gave him a smirk so deadly yet cold and speak in a tone that it sent shivers up his spine. "You better do something quick, Mi-chan, or you will die in this next attack." "Shit." He cursed before he grasped his yoru. Did he pull it back before he swung it once more with all the strength and speed he could muster. Doing so he spoke. "Sekaiichi no Zanjeki, the strongest slash of the world." With that he swung, sending a giant arc of compressed high-speed air toward Kushina. Yet the woman just smirked, seeing it coming her way. They both ignored those that got in the way of the attack. Buildings and marines alike were cut cleanly through the slash of compressed air. Seeing it coming, Kushina smirked before quickly draw her katana, and in a flash she spoke. "Yuzushoku. Sh. Sekaiichi nashi Zanjeki, color of the armaments. Sharpen. The strongest slash of the world," and in just that flash did the same arc of high-speed compressed air appear, only bigger. Much bigger. But like her husband's attack, shot through the top part, splitting the skies itself and cutting into the ground, only this one was tearing through the ground and the water beneath the very island. As it closed in on Mihik's own slash, the island part that was cut was slowly tidling deeper into the ocean, this part being mainly some of Marineford's populated housings. Once the two attacks clashed though, it was expected that another explosion would erupt, but instead, shockingly enough, Mihik's attack was cut clean and through like butter it separated, thus cleaving parts of Marineford's base in two. Kushina's attack still holding strong. Seeing it come toward him, Mihik only had time to hold up his yoru to try and deflect it. Once it was within range, Mihik held firm with his yoru before him, and when he felt the slash impacting onto him, he grit his teeth and glared his eyes at the attack. He skid inch by inch, which grew feet by feet till he was skidding back and back without stopping. That is until he stomped his foot into the ground before holding his ground, stopping himself completely. The attack grew more and more, seeing as it was being blocked, though seeing it get stronger, Mihik closed his eyes before he heaved with all he had to counter the attack. That which resulted in Kushina's strike shooting up into the air, completely cutting the clouds themselves before it disappear, but also in result was something that made Mihik drop to his knees. His Kakuto yoru, being held firmly in his grasp, was missing half of its blade, with it being a few feet from him. When he felt someone in front of him, he slowly turned to see Kushina looking at him and his broken sword before shaking her head. She slowly placed her katana back into its sheath before she picked up the end of his yoru that had been sliced off before she placed it beside Mihik. Looking at him did she speak. "You did well, Mihik, to counter my second strongest attack is no small feat I give you, that is why if you help me and Narukoi, I shall restore the Kakuto yoru. After all, I was the one who made it," she said with a smirk. Mihik slowly just looked at her before looking at his broken blade and only blade he had in his possession. Looking toward his ex-sensei, all he could do was smirk. "I seem to have no choice, huh?" Which Kushina just grinned in a very similar manner to one Monkey D. Luffy. "You got that damn right, Tebane." With that she disappeared once more as Mihik grasped the other end of his blade before giving out a chuckle despite his defeat. Remembering a Marimo-haired swordsman did Mihik speak. "Seems you're not the only one that needs training, Rarano Zoro, seems I have much more to learn." With Naruto. Standing in one of many countless craters among the battlefield was Naruto, with two more, only them lying face down on the ground. He himself was unscathed as he was slowly sheathing his saber after cleaning off the remaining blood. His clothing unscathed as well, but his face had the blood of his enemies, and as did his clothing. No tears or such, but the blood of his two enemies was splattered among his clothing and skin. Looking down at his defeated enemies, did he let out a bored sigh. Unlike him, both Akiji and Borsellino were nothing more than bloody smears on the ground, literally so. Their admiral mantles both gone, as were parts of their upper and lower clothing. Slashes and gashes from his saber showed among their chests, arms and legs. Borsellino's sunglasses long shattered, as was Akiji's headgear as well. They lay there on the ground pooling blood, unconscious, as not only the slashes and cuts but, from broken to shattered bones, were out of place in their bodies. Fractured ribs, shattered collarbones, broken legs and arms. Seeing the two down and seeing his wife done with Mihik, did Naruto glance up at both Sengoku and Garp where Whitebeard was, that is before he slowly glanced up at the Marineford base. He analyzed it a few minutes before he narrowed his eyes. Seems we got some visitors with it. He disappeared heading toward Whitebeard. But Sengoku and Garp. During the battles between Naruto and Kushina, both Sengoku and Garp had tried to intervene, but Whitebeard stopped them from even trying. He knew it wouldn't change the outcome, no matter how much the two tried to fight, even if he was gonna die. Those two were end this war, gaining a victory for the pirates all over the world. Standing in front of both Sengoku and Garp, the severely wounded Whitebeard grinned at them. Seeing their frustrated expressions made it all the more appealing to him. At first he thought the war would have been lost with Ace's death, but those two appeared. There was only one way for them to appear like they did, and he inwardly thanked Shanks very much. Looking at the two, did he let loose a bellowing laugh. You two are in trouble now. Even if I die, it won't stop those two from coming at you, and with the full force of the entire ocean upon you and the whole world government, he said, ignoring the blood pooling from him. Sengoku, the ever-prideful marine, would have growled at him if it weren't completely and utterly true. If there was one thing he and the whole Gorosei feared, it was those two, and their awakening all the more solidified their fear. Nonetheless, he and Garp stood before Whitebeard, him in his golden Buddha form and Garp's unrestrained strength. That's right, after all, Garp here is taking duty over his own family, and Sengoku here is overlooking the sins of their very nobles they protect, said a voice that made both marines' eyes widen in shock as both Naruto and Kushina appeared at Whitebeard's side, thus making the giant pirate grin all the more. Why you, uttered Garp as he stared at the two people he hoped to never see, not out of spite nor anger but out of his own sins against them and the betrayal he committed. Naruto just gave him a non-caring glance before focusing his attention on Sengoku, though Kushina glared at him with enough killing intent and haki that it made him take a step back while flinching. Uzumaki D Naruto, Uzumaki D Kushina, I never would have thought you two were still alive. Seems I should have taken your words all those years ago more seriously. My own pride blinded me, muttered Sengoku as he stared down at the two people that made even the famed Pirate King Gold D Roger look small in comparison in power. Glaring at the man, did Naruto speak, yet look at what it's come to, you stupid brat, for not only trying to kill our own family, we have come to beat the words and sense into your heads. Your admirals aren't gonna be able to do anything as well as your other Shichibukai. You've lost either way, Sengoku spoke Naruto as he glared at the angerful eyes of Sengoku. That may be true, but me and Garp are still here. He shouted before he brought down his palm, shooting out a golden shockwave, but before it could hit them, Naruto shot out his own palm, it blazing with his own haki, thus has stopped the attack, nullifying it completely. Unfortunately, we've got other matters to attend to, so with that Naruto appeared in front of Sengoku before delivering a punch of his pure raw strength into Sengoku's stomach, making him completely wide-eyed before keeling over. He didn't go flying, for he had stood his ground, but the Marineford base didn't get the same protection, for it was once again hit by a shockwave. Only from Naruto's pure strength did it shatter as it fell apart. Sensing Garp coming from his right, did he spin around in the air, blocking a punch from Garp with his knee as the shockwaves from the punch flowed behind him. He glared down at the solemn Garp before grasping his face before kneeing the man in the face, gaining a painful moan from the man before spun him around before throwing him into the ground. Upon impact, did the ground just crater beneath him, getting yet another painful grunt from the man. He tried to move only to have a katana pointed at his neck. Looking up, did he see Kushina ready to strike him down then and there. Her foot firmly set onto his chest, making him unable to move. Even if he tried, he'd be on a one-end trip to his deathbed. You stay right where you are, traitor, she said, spitting the word traitor out like pure poison. Garp, seeing it was futile and hearing Kushina's words, just laid there unmoving, while he just let the tears he's held back flow down. With Naruto, he looked back at Sengoku to see him gasping for breath as blood leaked out from his mouth. His fist imprint still in his stomach. Though once he felt that again, did Naruto glare once more, but not at Sengoku but to the Marineford base. Alright you rats, if you're gonna keep hiding then I'll flush you out. And before anyone could stop him, Naruto appeared in front of the Marineford base, his clenched fist blazing with his golden haki. Upon swinging his arm, did Naruto speak. Yuzushoku. Kimka. Jishin Ken, color of the armaments. Strengthen. Earthquake fist. Right then, before Whitebeard shocked, did Naruto punch the building only for it to shake and tremble as a real man-made earthquake shook around it. It only took a minute but that's all that was needed before right then and there before everyone's eyes. Marineford just collapsed, the earthquake within it and under it tore it apart literally. It just fell in on itself with the outer walls falling apart, cracking and falling as it did so. Pulling his fist back did Naruto and Kushina glare up at the figures that could be seen from within the falling Marine HQ. The one that Naruto and Kushina really cared about though was the person in the middle of them all. Standing upon the falling apart was Marshall D. Teach, or some would know him as Blackbeard, but right now the man was adorning a shocked expression, especially when he found the two pair of glaring azure slitted and violet orbs staring him down. "Teach!" shouted Whitebeard, glaring at the man that had not only caused mutiny on his ship but also got Ace in all this trouble to begin with. Garp and Sengoku, despite Naruto and Kushina, looked up in anger at the man who had caused all of this. So he's the one that Shanks told us about," muttered Kushina as she glared at Blackbeard and his crew. Naruto himself just let loose his haki, making his body just erupt in golden haki. It shot up into the skies itself and enveloped the whole of Marineford and its island in a golden light, that which could be seen from all across the Grand Line. It was like God's torch of vengeful flames. So this bastard is the one that not only put my grandsons in such a position, but he also scarred me, and Kushina's second son. This brat is the one that scarred my second son. You shall not leave here alive. Naruto's wrathful words echoed all around the island with a shockwave by itself. The haki golden aura around erupted like a volcano as his hair just billowed in the self-made winds of power. Clenching his fists did Naruto let loose such a glare that it sent the petrified Blackbeard into hysterics, not his normally faked ones, but true fearful hysterics. He had angered a father and mother and he shall pay with his blood. Outskirts of Marineford. Upon the pirate ship called Red Force, did the whole crew see the golden aura of light erupt from Marineford among them? Did Shanks let loose a frown? Him and his crew ready to back up both Whitebeard and those he had called upon. Yet he knew they wouldn't need it. He couldn't help but worry for the two. Though seeing the golden aura of haki erupt from the island, it lighting up the sky itself seen from all over the Grand Line and the New World, made him frown all the more. Father is angry. What if Naruto was the first emperor in One Piece? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.